Okay, anytime you get ready.
I'm ready. You get so involved when you're doing your drumming.
Oh, no. I get homesick. I get homesick. It's like looking back through time.
With your cans.
With my cans. When I didn't have some bongos. And we had to use great ingenuity and cans from the supermarket to hook them together. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's go on. Let me have a taste of this great water.
All right.
God, that's wonderful.
I know.
Continuing with the snake.
The snake doctor.
The snake doctor.
Yes.
Continue right along with the snake doctor.
Gotcha. All right. Tell me more about it.
As we all remember, when last seen, the snake doctor had been, well, killed. No, the snake had been killed. And Kojo's girlfriend in the U.S., in Ghana, had sent him information saying that Asiafo had also been killed. So if there's a supernatural connection between them, I didn't make it. I didn't do it. I'm not guilty, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Gotcha.
That's my story.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're at chapter 18. Grace's reply to his letter came 3 weeks later. Dear Kojo, please forgive me for taking so long to reply to your letters. I have been frightfully busy. Ghana is going on, sometimes ahead, frequently behind, but always on. We discover new ways to do old things and old ways to do new things. Now then, the news, as they say, on the GBC from the village of Chito. I cannot give you the exact date that Asiafo was murdered. It appears that he had lain in the forest for a few days before his body was discovered. However, I can tell you that there are other developments concerning this matter. It seems that this girl that Asiafo was having his romance with, man does not live on fufu alone, has disappeared. Wait a minute, Asiafo was having a romance with a girl in the village, and the girl disappeared. My Aunt Eugenia, a reliable source, tells me that the girl was pregnant. Now, her disappearance might mean that she was ostracized, banished, exiled from the village, or perhaps her shame was so great that she ran away. Who can say? I'm sure you found on your brief stay in Chito that life in a small conservative place like that can be quite parochial. So, at the end of the day, there you have it. I don't know what else to say. I wish you well. Love, Grace. Kojo, we read the note again. The girl was pregnant? He put the letter in his files, vaguely disturbed by the idea that Asiafo might have a child somewhere in the world. My grandfather's eyes were scored, edited, distributed, applauded, and made big profits. Akosua Ferguson Brown gave birth to a 7-pound, 5-ounce boy who was given a traditional West African outdooring and named Kofi Brown after his paternal grandfather. Growing up, he was always called Little Kofi.
Little Kofi, yeah.
Kojo's films, following my grandfather's eyes, Secret Music, and Dry Long So, removed him from most of the stereotypical white definitions of an African-American writer, director, producer. Akos, listen to this one. Kojo Brown's Dry Long So, an almost undefinable word of African origin, appears to substantiate his appeal to people in general rather than blacks only. The high level of his art should make all of us appreciative of that fact. He shows us all of the qualities that made Bergman and Fellini creative powers in their day. Still stacking up next to the white boys, huh?
Yep, that's what it is.
Inevitably, but I can't complain too loud. Fellini, Bergman, that's not bad
Take
company.
that, yeah, take that, yeah.
The Browns were on a roll. Akosua's books, fine examinations of the finite play between the sexes, were critically acclaimed and sold well. And Kojo was following his 5-year plan in his 4th film. Kofi Brown, named after his paternal grandfather, was 5 years old, precocious, and his grandparents were the first one to take note of the boy's interest in snakes. Kojo, notice what happens when I open that big book on reptiles. Kofi stares and points at him as though he knew every one of them. Close the book, Dad. Please. I don't want him to become interested in snakes. That's not like you, son. I thought you wanted your boy to be interested in everything. It's a long story, Dad. Please close the book. I'll explain it to you someday. Little Kofi. No doubt about it, I really missed my great-grandfather Kwame. We have been really good friends. When he died at 104 and I was 10, it seemed unreal to me. I thought he was supposed to live forever, or at least until I blew into my teens. The old man's death pulled me into a reality I'd never experienced before. What do you know? What do you think about death at 10 years old? I had seen dead animals here and there, but never a dead person, especially not someone I felt close to. He was old when he died, but I don't know, he never seemed to be 104 when he was alive. Maybe it had something to do with how alert, how sharp he was. Kofi, what'd you learn in school today? He would sit in his favorite chair and quiz me about school, about what I wanted to be in life, stuff like that. He was the first one I talked to about becoming a herpetologist, about why I wanted to find a cure for certain kinds of neurological disorders by synthesizing the venom of various snakes. He never laughed at my naive views of the world, people, life in general. It took me a little while to come to grips with the idea that he wouldn't be around to answer any questions anymore, to play chess with. I never won a single game. To laugh and joke with. But it wasn't like I was completely hung out to dry by Gramps' death. I still had Mom and Dad and their parents, my grandparents, to lean on. I thought my dad's mom and dad were some of the smartest people on the planet. Granddad, Kofi, was named after him, and Grandma and Jinga were as busy as two middle-aged people could be with their bookstore, the civic activities, and all the other stuff they did. But they always had quality time and original answers for me, no matter how busy they were.
Wow.
Mom's parents, my maternal grandparents, they were kind of different. They always gave me presents. They're always giving me presents, things. And I love them for their generosity, but there are times when I wish they would just back away from the gift shop thing. Mom reminds me all the time, that's the way they are, Kofi. That's their way of showing their love. Growing up, I was always encouraged to ask questions. Grandson, if you don't ask questions, people will assume that you know everything, just like all the rest of the young folks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good example of my granddad, Big Kofi's dry sense of humor. Kofi, if we don't have the answer offhand, we'll go to the library and find out. That's Grandma and Jinga. Grandmother, Minerva, and Grandfather Harvey have always had a different mindset. If we don't know the answer, we'll buy it from the best possible source.
Okay.
Whenever I hear that proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, I can definitely say I had the benefits of being village raised. My mom and dad, my grandparents, have always been there for me except for one thing concerning Dad. Why herpetology, son? I don't know why, Dad. It's just something I'm interested in. Well, son, look, It's natural to be interested in a lot of things when you're 10 years old. Why don't you feel around a bit, explore a few other career fields before you settle into one particular groove? Dad's attitude really puzzled me because he was usually wide open to whatever I hung on him. I mean, it took a long time to find out why he wasn't enthusiastic about my interest in snakes.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
I bet you bet. Father Kojo. My dad, the bookstore owner, noticed little Kofi's interest in snakes and was always giving him books about reptiles on his birthday for Kwanzaa or whatever. I was really in a bind. I mean, how could I tell my dad, my son, my wife about my deal with Asiafo the wizard and how that snake came to be the main character in the business? I must have flashed back to the Asiafo scenario at least once a day for years. I'm 46 years old now. A successful writer, producer, director. Got all the goodies I think I need. And it may all stem from a deal I made with a guy in a forest in Ghana, West Africa, 20 years ago. Little Kofi. I can't say that I would have been better off having a brother or a sister. I can say that it would have made a difference because of all the goodies, all of the attention that would not have been lavished on me. Being an only child can have its advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is that I didn't have to share a bunch of things with a brother or sister. That doesn't mean that I was spoiled rotten, that I had my way about things. Mom and Dad wouldn't put up with any bratty behavior like they had rules. Kofi, when you get out of your bed, make it up.
Mm-hmm.
They were the parents and I was the child in the house. They made me understand that very clearly early on.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi, there's one father in this house. There's one mother in this house and one child, you. We are a dictatorship of two. And your mother and what we say goes. That's it. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
I was not oppressed or anything like that, but there were rules to be followed. I could talk with Mom and Dad about anything under the sun, but at the end of the day, they made the final decisions. Kofi, you don't know enough to make an informed decision about this matter or any matter.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Got it.
It wasn't until I got in my teens in this elite private high school that I paid some attention to the way some of my peers were being raised, the relationship they had with their parents, their families. Let me give you 3 examples of what I'm talking about. I wanted a car, or at least a motorcycle. We had a family conference. Granddad Harvey and Grandmother Minerva would have brought me one in a minute. Kofi, we've decided that it wouldn't be a good idea for you to have a car or a motorcycle at this time. Because basically, you're just going back and forth to school, and public transportation served that purpose very well. Ah, but Dad, Mom, other kids have cars and stuff. Man, what did I say that for? They didn't let me off the hook for an hour, patiently explaining why I should never, ever even suggest that I was supposed to use the herd as a validation support for any argument I wanted to make. You must not ever tell us you should be allowed to do this or that, or have this or that because others have it or do it. We will not allow you to do the herd mentality number.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi, you're going to find out as you grow older and wiser with our guidance that a lot of the members of your peer group are just simply blundering around because their parents are not doing their work properly. And they're all going to suffer the consequences. Check it out. I was not allowed to listen to rap music. My mom was hell on rap, especially gangster rap, or what some people used to call hard rap.
Mm.
As a writer, she said to me, I know something about the power of words, how they can be used and misused. Unfortunately, I think that too many of the rappers have misused the words, stepped off on the wrong foot, and have no idea that they're out of step. I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean, Mom. I was trying to look for an opening to defend my rap heroes. Well, let me put it to you another way. When an immature collection of young men and women decide that they're going to legitimize as many negative elements in our community as they can, then I feel that they're on the wrong foot. Yes, it does have something to do with the whole bitch, motherfucker, nigga thing. But for me, it goes deeper than that. Too many of these young people just simply don't have the maturity, the wisdom to be trying to tell others how to behave. Do some of them have real talent? You're damn right they do. And they've grown up in rough neighborhoods and been shot and shot at, but that doesn't give them the credentials to counsel others. Kofi, as you know, we listen to everything, everybody. I was stunned to discover that the country and western dudes, people like Garth Brooks and others, were actually saying something. Thank you, Akosua. I object to two big things in rap. Number one, the sound is much too loud. 85 decibels is the normal, safe hearing range. When it's revved up past 100 decibels plus that undercurrent sonic boom, it's blowing your ears out. Right now, most of your friends have hearing problems. Think of what they're going to be able to hear at age 40, 50. I know you guys can't even imagine being older than 25, but trust me, my son, it's going to happen one day. You'll look at yourself in the mirror and say, damn, I'm 26 years old. That's how fast time flies. I could spend a lot of time talking about the age, time lapse process, but let's stay with the rap genre for a bit. Aside from the deafening effect it's having, where are the musicians? The drummers, the bassists, the pianists, the horn players. When you look at the musical legacy that's been left to us from Blind Lemon Jefferson, Muddy Waters, I'm just going to name a few randoms here. Sidney Bechet, Louis Armstrong, Duke Count, Nat King Cole, Miles Davis, Bird. I could go on and on. But just let me stop at Bird, Charlie Parker. How many of the rappers are going to pass along music, sheer music, pure music, instrumental as well as vocal music that would be the equivalent of the Byrds' contribution? But Dad, rap is a different thing. But they call it music, don't they? You make music with instruments and your voice. I'm simply asking, where are the musicians? We don't want to gang up on you, Kofi, but that's a legitimate question. Where are the musicians? In addition, as a writer, I'd like to ask, where are the poets? The people who are supposed to be responsible for creating the lyrics in their genre. Every rapper is a poet, and some, of course, are better than others. Without a doubt, some are better than others. That's true in anything. But my question is, where are the poets? I'm not talking about rhymers. I'm talking about people who can write the words of their raps in different rhyme patterns. If they wanted to rap in iambic pentameter, could they sit down and do that? Kofi, do you hear what your mother's asking you? She's not talking about rhyming, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Anybody can do that. We're talking about complexities, not simplistic rhyming. I'm not going to say that they fully convinced me of anything on every level, but I paid close attention to what they said. They were not into self-righteous preaching or trying to browbeat me for the hell of it. Drugs. Dad played it out clear and clean for me. Being in the business we're in, we've always had access to drugs. Cocaine mostly. But whatever our little hearts craved. When I was younger, I smoked a little herb and snorted my lines of coke. Ain't that a fact? Didn't we do that at Akosua? You got that right. Case in point. The rapper just passed. Fortunately, he was going fast. The rapper just passed. Fortunately, he was going past. The rapper was past. Now he's past. Didn't we, Akosua? You got that right. I must have done a double take on Mom and Dad smoking weed and snorting coke. That sounds unbelievable. Kofi, we don't want to dethrone ourselves from sainthood in your eyes, but we've been there, done that, and have the t-shirts to prove it. I made a note to use that expression at a later date. Mom sipped her Martinelli's apple juice like it was a glass of fine sherry and took up the narrative. It was there, we were adventurous, and we did it. Simple as that. And that was the end of it. What made you stop? They exchanged looks, that little psychic mental shorthand they had. Well, as you know, cocaine is addictive and expensive. I mean, who with any sense wants to snort up thousands of dollars up your nose? Marijuana is different. It's not addictive, but you can become habituated to it. We used to know some people, we won't mention their names, who sat around smoking weed and watching TV all day long. For most people, it's not a drug that promotes active, creative behavior. It alters your perceptions, for most people, in a negative way. What about the creative people, the artists and musicians who say that the herb inspires them? Dad could hardly wait for me to finish the sentences. Kofi, like I said, for most people, it's not a drug that promotes creative, active behavior. There are always exceptions. Let's take Verve, Charlie Parker, for example. This brother was known to use heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and booze. Wow! All at the same time. And blow other musicians off the bandstand. One of them, can't think of his name right now, once said that Bird created a whole bunch of dope fiend musicians. They thought, shit, if he can play like that under the influence, then that's the way to go. They made the mistake of thinking they could do what Bird. They made the mistake of thinking that they could do what Bird did under the influence. Just for the record, I can tell you personally, drugs will not help you think better, play better, or write better. Drugs are crutches that can make you dependent, but not more creative unless you're Charlie Parker and you want to die at the age of 34. And besides, there are too many natural highs out there. Yoga, Tai Chi, swimming, jogging, reading, writing, making films. But Mom, Dad, you guys drink wine pretty often. You're right, Kofi, we do. But you've never seen either one of us get drunk and disorderly or get a big buzz on just before we get ready to go out, which is what a lot of people do. I'm getting ready to go to this party, so let me smoke this sinsemilla. Drink 3 shots of whiskey. Snort 3-4 lines of cocaine. None of that madness. First of all, you're putting yourself in danger. And you're a potential danger for everybody else. A glass of fine vino at the end of the day is a real pleasure, especially if it's a special occasion. But there are rules and regulations to be followed. You gotta know when enough is enough, and no one can be a better judge of that than you. My mom and dad talked to me, not at me, to me. They didn't always sit me down for family conferences, but if there was something happening that had a lesson in it, they didn't hesitate to point it out. One day, coming home from school, I must have been about 13, 14 at the time, I gave this old wino guy a quarter to buy me a pack of cigarettes. A quarter.
Back then.
A quarter. I guess you could say the devil made me do it. I can't offer any other explanation. Somehow it just seemed like it would be a cool thing to do. I lit one up on the way home, took a couple of puffs of this awful smoke, and put the pack in my backpack. Mom found them.
Oh my.
Kofi, are you smoking cigarettes now? No, Mom. These belong to a friend of mine. He put them in my backpack and I just forgot. You're telling me a lie. Oh. You talking about angry. They hated a liar worse than God hates little green apples. I had to backtrack immediately. Well, actually, yeah, I guess I did buy them, but I wasn't planning to smoke them. But yes, you were. That's why you spent $5 for them. I see you've already smoked one. Oh, we got a little.
Oh, typo.
Economic glitch here. I'm saying he spent 25 cents for it, and it comes down to $5.
More likely $5.
Oh, I see. He gave the wino a quarter to buy a pack of cigarettes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he
And
bought
so
him 5, but
the
yeah,
cigarette,
you gave him a tip, 25 cents. Okay, all right, that's good.
I see you already smoked one. Actually, I just cooked a couple puffs and threw it away. Well, we can't have you wasting your hard-earned money, so it looks like you have to do a little smoking to do, young man.
Uh-oh.
We didn't even have an ashtray in our house. Mom went downstairs and came back with a small empty flower pot and a package of old-fashioned wooden cigarette matches. Here you are. It's 5 o'clock now. Light them up. You have exactly 1 hour to smoke this pack. I want to see 21 filter tips when I come back to your room at 6 o'clock, else you can consider yourself grounded for the next 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and Dad didn't play around. If they said it, they meant it. I knew she was being extra hard on me because I had attempted to lie my way out of the situation. I had to smoke these awful tasting gaseous cigarettes or else I would be grounded. That meant no TV, no basketball, no movies, no walks to the mall to look at the girls, nothing. It was an hour I'll never forget. I puffed, and I puffed, and puffed. Blue gassy smoke all over my room. I hated to think of what my room would smell like. Rather than smoke one at a time, I tried smoking 3 at once.
Brilliant.
That was a real mistake. I could feel myself turning green. So I went back to one by one method. I don't know how I did it, but at 5 minutes to 6, I was puffing on the last butt. Mom knocked on my room door. Give me the flower pot. I opened the door to give her the pot, and there she was with a damn cough covering my nose. I felt so bad. I felt bad physically, but I felt even worse about the problem I had caused for her. 21 bucks in here? She asked with cough. Yes. Open your bedroom window to let that horrible oat out. We were having dinner in half an hour. That's all she said and went back downstairs with these awful cigarette butts. A half hour later, she called up to me. Kofi, dinner's ready. Thanks, Mom. I'm not hungry now. Alrighty. I was sick as a dog. Stomach churning, headache, and this horrible taste in my mouth. I had never had a hangover, but I'm sure the way I felt was the equivalent of a beastly hangover. Dad was working on a documentary, so I didn't see him till the following evening when we sat down for dinner. Your mother tells me you were smoking yesterday.
Oh, funny.
I repeat, your mother tells me you gave up smoking yesterday. All I could do was nod, and that was it. They've never been the types to beat a dead horse, and I've never smoked a cigarette since that day. My folks had high expectations for me, and they gave me responsibilities. I don't think having a brother or sister would have changed that. Now, Kojo's story. Well, what can I say? What can I say? Kofi was 21 years old, and like most of the people in our family, had decided to make his trip to Ghana. That was and had been pretty much a tradition in our family. It wasn't like a Hajj to Mecca or anything religious, but for some reason or other, that about 20 or so, all of the members of the Brown family had made or would be making a trip to Ghana. We even had a family fund for that purpose, so as you can well imagine, I was not shocked when Kofi came to us and announced, Dad, Mom, I feel Ghana calling. Akosua had made her Hajj 3 years after I came back, ranting and raving about the cinematic possibilities that Ghana offered. She spent 3 months in Ghana, soaked up enough stuff for 3 books. When Kofi made his announcement, I felt it was time to level with everybody to tell the truth, basically.
Oh, Lord.
I made an occasion of it. I gathered Akosua and Kofi to my secret one evening prior to Kofi's trip. Akosua was as angry and pissed off with me as she had ever been during our 21-year-old marriage. Whoa! Let me get this straight. Are you telling me that you married me because of some weird deal you made with a cursed man in the Ghanaian equatorial rainforest?
Mm-hmm.
I also made some other sacrifices. Talk about putting your foot in your mouth. Damn these other things you did. That's between you and what's his name? I'm talking about us. I thought you married me because you loved me. I did. I do. I placed the knee pads at thigh level and tipped around on thin ice for a long week. Akosua looked at me as though steam was blowing out of her nostrils, and Kofi shook his head as though he was listening to something he didn't want to hear. Exactly a week after I had told him about Asiafo, Akosua confronted me in the backyard. Kofi, you know, I've been thinking a lot about this story you told us. Are you pulling off one of your famous practical jokes or something? I wish I was. No, of course, this is the real deal. It's something that actually happened. She tilted her head to one side to give me her special skeptical look. What proof do you have? I mean, what could you show us that would take this whole thing out of the Twilight Zone? I thought hard on it for a few minutes. The letters from Grace about Asiafo. Of course, I can give you proof, but it's going to take a couple of days. I have to go through my old files. She folded her arms across her breast. I'll be more than happy to wait for as long as it takes. The challenge was on. An hour later, Kofi passed me in the downstairs corridor on his way to play basketball, smirking. Dad, Mom says you're going to give us some proof of this wild man in the forest story. I wanted to throw something at him. But instead, I went up to our attic storage bin, Grace's letters. I prayed I hadn't thrown all of them away. After all, 20 years is a long time to keep a letter. I got busy. I started with the boxes on the left side of the attic. I discovered first, second draft scripts of my grandfather's eyes, menus from the Sompong, a great Thai restaurant we used to go to, story outlines for projects that never took off, receipts for this and that, including a receipt from the Los Angeles Fire Department for a fire that occurred long ago in South Los Angeles. Needless to say, I felt I was getting warm. Kofi let me know, very respectfully, that he was still pissed off about me not wanting him to become a herpetologist. Dad, just think about it. If I had paid strict attention to your advice, I wouldn't be headed for a brilliant career. I wouldn't have a full scholarship to the University of Florida. I don't know what would have happened to me. I might have wound up on Skid Row or something. Stop it, son. You're exaggerating a bit, aren't you? They had me by the short hairs. I had to admit, Akosua took great pleasure in asking me at different times of the day, found anything yet?
Fair.
Filing cabinets loaded with 20 years worth of stuff that wanted to mint something, whatever it was at the time. I was filling up trash bags with memories, but no letter from Grace Holy Boy. I was beginning to think, well, maybe they had right. Maybe it was all something I imagined. I was about to give up the whole business and just eat my crow and be done with it. Till I came across this receipt for the purchase of a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig.
Oh.
I sat there staring at the Chinese letters on the receipt. Mr. Wing's Pets. The whole business washed over me, sneaking into the backyard with the pig. Akosua was pregnant. How fearful I was that the snake wouldn't take the sacrifice and that I'd be running into bad luck at every turn. I kept fishing. It was about 8 p.m. of the second day, and Akosua and Kofi were beginning to feel a little pity for me. I could tell from the gentle way they spoke to me. It's okay, Kojo. It's okay, honey. You don't have to prove anything. Yeah, Dad, why don't we just forget about the whole thing? The envelope with the Ghanaian stamp with Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, of all people, sat up in front of me, Grace's letter. I read it 3 times to make sure I had the right letter, and 3 folds away, another letter from Grace. I was so nervous the pages shook in my hands. Dear Kojo, a long time, eh? I hope all is going well with you and your work. I'm doing well and trying to do better, but as you encounter here, one must be careful not to cause too much envy. You recall what degree they would give me? It is called PhD, pull her down.
Mm-hmm.
From this point, I will limit my correspondence to Christmas cards. Why? Well, I started thinking of how I would feel if you were my husband and you were receiving letters from some woman in Africa. I hope you can appreciate my feelings about this matter. Now then, the news, as they say on the Ghana broadcasting. I went to visit Aunt Eugenia. She thanked you for the CDs. And she told last week, and she was full of news. The most devastating bit of news concerns that wild man of the forest, Asiafo, the one who made your deal with. He was found dead in the forest, his skull crushed. There's a great suspicion, according to Auntie, that he was killed by members of a family who suspected him of having a romance with the youngest daughter of his family. Of course, the police were called in and they found nothing, nor did they find the person or persons who murdered Asiafo. The consensus seemed to be good riddance. I must say to you honestly, I was a bit surprised when you spoke of your deal with this man. I couldn't come out openly and say to you, Kojo, I think it's rubbish because you seem so totally taken in by the possibilities that were being offered you. Well, in any case, at the end of the day, I should like to suggest that whatever the obligations were that were imposed on you should be considered null and void. The man is dead. As the proverb says, what sense does it make to put chop in a dead man's mouth? I will be traveling to Cuba and possibly the United States next year. Perhaps we could make arrangements to meet and do lunch, as you chaps say in Hollywood. Till then, all my best, Grace. And then the second letter, a reply to the query he made about the day Asiafo was murdered. He felt compelled to know if there was more than coincidence to the fact that he killed a snake on a particular day and that Asiafo may have been killed on that same day. Dear Kojo, please forgive me for taking so long to reply to your letter. I have been frightfully busy. Ghana is going on, sometimes ahead, frequently behind, but always on. We discover new ways to do old things and old ways to do new things. Now then, the news, as they say on the GBC from the village of Chito. I cannot give you the exact date that Asiafo was murdered. It appears that he had lain in the forest for a few days before his body was discovered. However, I can tell you that there are other developments concerning this matter. It seems that this girl that Asiafo was having his romance with, man does not live on fufu alone, has disappeared. My Auntie Eugenia, a reliable source, tells me that the girl was pregnant. Now her disappearance might mean that she was ostracized, banished, exiled from the village, or perhaps her shame was so great that she ran away. Who can say? I'm sure you found during your brief stay in Chito that life in a small conservative place like that can be quite parochial. So, at the end of the day, there you have it. I don't know what else to say. I wish you well. Love, Grace. So, the girl was pregnant. Asiafo might have a child somewhere in the world. I could hardly wait till the next morning to share Grace's letters with Akosua and Kofi. I had Xeroxed both of them and put inside red folders. I wanted to make a presentation. I thought of how Bill Cosby would have done it. I didn't want to stand over my wife and son and gloat, but it felt damn good to be able to pull up a couple of pieces of evidence to validate what happened, what I had experienced 20 years ago. Akosua, Kofi, now that you finished your high-fiber cereal, I would like to present you two with copies of 2 letters from a Ghanaian lady named Grace. Perhaps they will serve to validate what I've told you. I would have paid cash money to have a photo of the expressions on their faces when I passed out the red folders. I felt like a big-time poker player spreading his winning hand on the table in front of the skeptical opponents. They read the letters slowly and then read them again. I had just a tinge of feeling about how Akosua would react to a couple of 20-year-old letters from an old girlfriend. Not a problem. Then to put the icing on the cake, in a manner of speaking, I gave them Xerox copies of the receipt for the Vietnamese pot-bellied pig. Akosua stepped out of the fog first. Who else knows about this?
Nobody.
Over here, nobody. Now that great-granddad is dead, as you can well imagine, this isn't the sort of thing you go around bragging about. Great-granddad, who else? Well, the woman who wrote the letter, Grace, her auntie in the village, maybe a couple other people in Ghana. It's not a very popular story by any means. Kofi's turn. He stroked his chin like he had a full gray beard. What happened to the girl who was pregnant, the one who left the village? I don't have a clue. Remember, I was back over here when that scene went down. Not only that, it didn't concern me. Akosua squinted at me the way she did when she had a ripe story idea. Kojo, wouldn't you like to know what happened to the girl who ran away, the girl who was pregnant with, what's his name's kid? No.
Most definitely not. Please.
But Dad,
No.
there's a really interesting story here.
No.
For who? Or should I say, for whom?
They didn't have to do with the snake. They didn't have to do with Asiafo.
You
No.
dig it. Akosua's squint sharp, and I could tell she was on something.
The writer.
Ain't that something?
The writer.
Kojo, we're not looking at a market here. We're looking at an authentic human interest story. I think the story would have real value if it were only done as an African Tarzan mystery tale. Why not? Dad, we wouldn't even have to bring you and the deal into it at all. It would just simply be the story of this wild guy and the relationship he had with this village girl. You know, you're always talking about how Hollywood neglects the stories with African foundations. Kojo, I think I would like to write a novel about this. The circumstances, steady. A novel about this. The circumstances are interesting and it fits the Pan-African occult agenda. I felt like I'd pulled all of it down on myself while trying to prove a point. It would have been pretty hard to fight Akosua Kofi's point suggestions. Well, I'd be a fool to argue that it's not an interesting story. That's pretty obvious. But Akosua was 3 jumps ahead of me. Kojo, no buts. Look, Kofi's getting ready to go to Ghana in May. May, that's the beginning of the rainy season. I looked it up. May, that's 3 months from now. Why couldn't we commission him, ask him to check out a few things for us? Oh, come on, Mom. You wouldn't have to commission me to do anything. Just tell me what you want. I'll go for it. Well, what do you think, Kojo? I'll never be able to make any accusations, any concrete accusation, but I always feel that my wife and my son did a little stacking on me there. What do I think? I think it'll be interesting, but what exactly is Kofi going to do? Akosua was right on the point. He'll do 4 specific things. Number 1, he'll check out the village where the girl came from. That's Chito and Aunt Eugenia. Aunt Eugenia? Kofi had a pad and ballpoint right in front of him. Aunt Eugenia is Grace's aunt, the one who wrote me the letters about Asiafo. Got it. Aunt Eugenia in Chito. What's her name? I never knew it. When you get to Chito, just ask for Aunt Eugenia. If she's still alive, they'll direct you to her. Number 2, we want to know where the girl went when she left the village. Number 3, did she have a baby, boy or girl? Number 4, what's her story? What's her lifestyle like these days? And if you have time to do it, Akosua cut a sly look at me. You might check out this Grace creature that your dad receives mail from. It would be interesting to see what she's up to these days. She might be of some help, who knows? Kofi, that's a very low priority, okay? He nodded in agreement. Now then, Kofi, having given you all my deep little secret, I would like for you two to agree to keep this strict in the family. Our deep, dark family secret. We stacked our hands atop each other on the breakfast table. Kojo, trust me, I think it's such a bizarre little story that no one would ever believe it anyway. Yeah, Dad, it's a little bit over the top. No matter what it is, let's just keep it in the family. And that's the end of chapter 18. We're going to go on to chapter 19 tomorrow.
Wow.
But as you can see, the plot thickens,
Wow.
and the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Akosua was lovely to.
Isn't she?
After 20 years, you know, I mean, she's obviously proven that he loves her without telling her every day. But he's shown her in more ways than one, I'm sure, that he loved her. And so it was...
Well, part of it, as you see as it comes out, it's a bit of a put on. You know, she's putting him on and making him feel like, well, come clean, you know.
Well, initially, if you said you married a person because you made a deal with a wild man in the forest, that was not the most nice thing you can say regarding why you said, will you marry me?
Yeah, right. I guess the alternative would have been for him to say, look, I just checked out Asiafo and he said that I should marry you. What do you think?
No, that would never worked out either. No. It had to come from the heart because he wanted to.
Well, being her as an imaginative creature, she said, well, you know what? I met this voodoo lady and she told me that I should look for somebody like you.
Tit for tat.
So
okay.
here we are, you know,
tit for tat. Okay. Well, the book, The Snake Doctor, can be purchased at Author House, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or just go to your local bookstore and say, I would like the book, The Snake Doctor by Odie Hawkins. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com. You are also on the author's page on Amazon. And just Google Odie Hawkins and you'll be surprised at what you'll find.
I'm glad you said that.
Because
I'm surprised myself.
Okay, if you like this moment in time with Odie and Zola, please subscribe to the channel. And we will see you
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Namaste.
Namaste.